Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back, friends. My blood froze. I was about to step into the sleek black sedan waiting by the curb, the one my father insisted I take, but a man's voice, raspy and broken, cut through me like glass. "Don't take that car." His eyes, bloodshot yet sharp, bored into mine. I didn't argue because instinct told me not to. I turned, walked past the car, and hailed a cab instead, and minutes later, I learned why. I grew up in a house where silence carried more weight than words. My parents, smiling in public and ruthless in private, taught me early that appearances were everything, but I clung to the one person who was different, my grandfather. He never played their games. With him, I wasn't a pawn, I was his heir, his confidant, his chosen one. He told me once, "The wolves will smile when they strip you bare. Learn to smile sharper." And I didn't understand then, but I do now. When I turned 25, the shift began. My father's gaze lingered too long on my accounts. My mother's voice softened with rehearsed pity when she asked about my future, and then came little slips. A missing signature here, a rewritten contract there, as my inheritance was slowly siphoned into shadows I couldn't trace. I searched quietly and patiently, and then I saw it. A trust fund under my name, emptied not by strangers but by my parents. The betrayal wasn't a dagger in the dark. It was a steady, methodical bleed. They hadn't just stolen money. They'd stolen the future my grandfather had carved for me. I didn't rage because rage is loud and rage makes mistakes. Instead, I remembered my grandfather's lesson to smile sharper. I played the beautiful child. I laughed at my father's hollow jokes. I let my mother fuss over ties and shoes. But behind the mask, I gathered every weapon they'd handed me. Documents, signatures, secret recordings of whispered deals. Piece by piece, I built my arsenal, and then I waited for the will reading. The will was the stage, with every relative, every lawyer, every leech in one room as the perfect audience, but the car was their final move. They thought they could silence me before the performance even began. The homeless man, the one they'd hired perhaps as a decoy or perhaps a conscience they didn't silence in time, warned me, and I listened. When I arrived, alive and unburned, I carried more than documents. I carried a shadow. My grandfather had once told me of a man he trusted more than his own son, a man erased from family records because he didn't play their games, a man I found years later alive, forgotten and living on the streets. He was the one who stopped me at the car, and now he walked behind me into the room. The lawyer cleared his throat and said, "We will begin." My parents sat polished and composed until they saw him. Their faces drained of color. My mother clutched the table, and my father's jaw slackened because behind me stood the man they had betrayed decades ago, the brother my grandfather had never truly disowned, the man who held the original will. I placed the folder on the table and said, my voice calm, "Before we proceed, there are corrections." The room stiffened and gasps circled like vultures as I laid out their sins one by one. The siphoned funds, the forged contracts, the recordings, and finally, the will they never knew existed, nomming me sole heir with my grandfather's estranged brother as executor. My father tried to speak, but his voice cracked, my mother sobbed. But the lawyer's gavel was merciless. "All assets revert. Fraud nullifies any claim." They collapsed under the weight of their own undoing. I didn't smile, not yet, and as the meeting dissolved into whispers, I stood. The man behind me placed a hand on my shoulder. It was steady and grounding. Justice wasn't loud. It was the silence after, the silence where my parents' empire crumbled and their legacy bled out on polished marble floors. I had taken back what was mine, not with fire or fury, but with precision. As I walked out, I finally allowed myself a breath. They thought I would be their pawn. They thought they could erase me. But I was my grandfather's heir, and now they knew what that meant.
Thanks for watching PastQuest. If you enjoyed the journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the past. See you in the next quest.